I never realized I would ever see it. The thought of it never entered my mind. I mean, I knew what it was, but never thought of it until it came for me. I'll start from the beginning. Growing up in a small town in Idaho, there was never much action. Hardly any crime, attractions, or really anything to leave a reputation. I guess you could say we lived off the grid. I never had a rough time growing up. I had a good relationship with my family. I did well in school. I had friends and had a bubbly, cheerful personality. I loved sports and band. I was involved in pretty much every club there was. I was even in the math club. But even for being involved, I was still only 14 at the time, so there was a lot I didn't know about the world. 1 year later, my grandpa was diagnosed with cancer. We had to take him to the nearest hospital for him to be treated. Unfortunately, they told us he had a month to live, if even that long. There I was, 3 weeks later, at his bedside. He whispered to me, "He's coming." I was confused on what he meant, but all of a sudden, I heard his heartbeat becoming fainter and fainter until flatline. Not until then did the thought of death come into my mind, but now it was as if I was obsessed with the thought of it. I was petrified by the idea. Not even 2 months later, my uncle was diagnosed with pneumonia. Seconds before his death, he mumbled into my ear, "He's getting closer." These 4 words sent shivers down my spine as I noticed a pattern. I had no idea what he meant, but this was a dark time in my life. I was for the first time getting bad grades. I also lost interest in many of my clubs. I was very depressed. Around 1.5 years later, going into my junior year in high school, my mother got leukemia. She was given 6 months to live. Every day went by as a blur. I stopped attending my clubs, my grades started to plummet, and I was losing interest in my life. My life seemed like nothing more than a countdown timer of death, ticking every second to hear of someone to die. 6 months passed, and there I was once again, next to a dying family member's bedside, waiting to be with them till their last breath. My mother became extremely pale as I heard her mumble to me, "He's here." Instantly, I became snow pale, with chills running down my entire body. I knew what she meant. Later that night, I thought of what happened to my mother, my grandpa, and my uncle. For the first time in several months, I cried. I tried holding it in, but it all happened so fast and I couldn't hold it in any longer. I sobbed for hours till I finally fell asleep. But all of a sudden, I heard footsteps. Not light footsteps either, large and loud footsteps. I looked into the doorway to expect my dad, but what I saw was a giant hooded man wearing a draping black robe. I stayed still as he stood there for several minutes. The only thing I heard was my racing heartbeat. I turned my head to make eye contact, but instead peered into an empty darkness beneath the hood. I asked it who it was. It whispered in a shrieking whisper tone, but I couldn't make out what it was saying. "Who are you?" I said louder. It said nothing this time, but this time staring back at me in what seemed like an angry glance. I said it again, yelling with rage. "Who are you and what do you want with me?" This time it responded in a screeching whisper, "I am here for you." It flashed to my bedside, putting its head over mine. It took off its hood and showed its face. A bare black skull with searing red flames for eyes. I could feel its eyes piercing into my soul, trying to take it. It told me, in a bone-chilling voice, 3 words I will never forget. "I am death."